Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me at TEDxFPTUniversityHCMC University this morning. So first, let me introduce myself. My name is Đăng Khoa. As everyone knows, I'm a startup investor, and I now invest in 17 companies in different industry, from sport, from agriculture, education, technology, food, and service. So this section may be a bit different from the first three because we're going to do some like interviewing. But first, let me recap about a little bit about my life. I'm now almost 39 years old. So when I was born, it was not a very good time of Vietnam. Vietnam is still in a very difficult situation, right? When I was in my childhood, my family like having electricity. I remember like 4 days a week. So even having electricity is something really delightful already back then. And then as Vietnam growing, my family growing, economically, I was lucky enough to having a chance to study abroad, New York City. And New York City actually the very first country that I really could, study abroad, outside of Vietnam. Before that, I never visited any other country. So, but I think that's a very fortunate opportunity that life have given to me. But so after study in the U.S. and back here to start my business career, Vietnam back then was still a very conservative country, especially like a lot of people, or like including even my parents, they all believe that you only can do one job at a time, or you have to choose you have to pick one career or one company and be focused, and then that company will lead you to the maybe the top level. But I'm quite a competitive person. So when I was 20 years old, I read an article about I call him Sir Richard Branson back then. So this was 19 years ago, I still remember. And when I read about him, he already had a investment fund with 40 companies. And I saw every week he went for golf, he went surfing. He very active person. And I myself think of why not me? I want to be that person. I want to be having, that ecosystem of companies. And I share with my friends. I share with my parents. I share with a lot of people that, I know, close to me. And most of them think that I was crazy. I think, who you think you are? What made you up there, We different, We from different country, different condition. We different, you cannot compare. That's crazy. I say, okay, then tell me, what makes it different? One of the businessman I really admire is Lee Kai-sing. He's from Hong Kong. He's now one of the richest, businessman in Asia and what in the world. But as back then, the story that really moved me is one of my friends say, when you come to Hong Kong, every $100 you spend, $2 goes to him. Nobody knows about. He owned that much of business. But, when he was at his childhood, he was so poor that he could not make a proper funeral to his dad. I was in a very much more advantaged position than him. So why not me? That thought keep bringing me today. At the years of 38, now moving to my 39 years old, having 17 companies. But only a few months ago when I read an article about Sir Richard Branson again, after 19 years, you know what happened? He now has 400 companies. 400 companies on his own. And now I am having 17. I was thinking I was half of his way, but I forgot in the last 20 years, he's still growing too, and he grows fast. I'm losing hope? No. I still having a lot of hopes because I still have another 30 years to run, 30 years to compete, and 30 years that we can challenge each other. So, so what's the formula? So nowadays, everybody, especially in this whole room, who want to be the startup? Raise your hand so I can say. Anyone? Yeah, it's a lot, right? I don't see. So, because of the lies, sorry, but um, the formula. So now everybody talking about a startup in Vietnam, right? But today, when I come here, all I want is to share the formula, the essential formula of having a successful startup in Vietnam. Startup is a global concept, but all the global concepts have to be localized. Startup in different country, in different situation, is need to be flexible, right? So today, as a person that invests in quite a lot of startup in Vietnam in different industry, so I would love to share with you guys what I think the formula of having a potential successful startup in Vietnam. Thank you very much. And now we can do some interview.
Okay, very good. So now we see that we have some like essential thing that we need to keep in mind. And I will start with some keywords because keywords will come to ideas and then a very interesting conversation. So let's talk about creativity. What do you think about creativity and how important is creativity?
I think creativity to me nowadays is a must. Nowadays, when people talk about, we keep talking about a lot about the industry 4.0, right? About technology, right? About AI, about robot can replace people, right? So that's make creativity is very, very important thing in life, especially for young people like us. I'm not that young, but still I have to keep myself be creative, because only creativity can really make us differentiated from what machine can do in a very near future. Right?
Next, let's talk about market. How do you find the right market for your business or for your product?
Okay, so when I look at a market or a product or service that I invest in, I normally have to look first at the market side, right? It has to be big. It's like most of the product now or service that I invest in right now, I have to see the potential that product can export, can conquer the world, or at least Vietnam. So that's a formula that can create a possible unicorn. Unicorn, you guys know that a billion US dollar in startup, right? So the market side that's possible for a unicorn is around 600 million people and above. So if you want to having a chance of creating any unicorn, you have to start at first finding something that you can sell to that much of people. Right? Let's say Vietnam, we think Vietnam big? No, only 100 million people. We need a market size at least 6 times than Vietnam. Our neighbor country China, we have maybe 1.4 billion or something. India, 1.2 billion. That's why they have a lot of unicorn, because they're lucky enough, growing in a country that have already really, really big market size. I mean, people. Yes. So, and I'm a very curious person since I was a kid, right? So I love reading financial report. So, when I invest in, I normally have to read a lot of financial report, about the market side, about, how big, is the size that market, can really, get there.
Very good. So let's talk about our team development. When it comes to startup, I think our team development is very important. So how do you develop your team? And
I think team, okay, so first is the market size. Second, of course, is the team. Team is actually the people. What I meet up with a lot of startup every year, almost like every month. A lot of startup will come to me, and I think one of the biggest failure, that startup make in Vietnam is they find the wrong team. Because a lot of I meet up with a lot of excellent people. They have very differentiated product or service. Have huge potential. But when they started, they try to find to work with friends or maybe like family members who can really supporting them at the very first stage, or who have the same mindset with them. But it's gonna go to a very troublesome later on. Because when we find a team to run a company or run a startup, you need to find people have very different skill. At least you have to, you have to have someone that really good at sell, really good at operation, finance, legal, right? At least. So maybe a team of 3 have to cover at least these 4 basic skills. But normally people cannot wait to rush to form a company, but still not having a proper team that can really, pull that startup idea, become a real company that can survive.
thank you so much. So you have mentioned about localized. So can you tell me what is difference between Vietnam and other countries, and how can we actually localize when it comes to start or do a business?
I think one of the luckiest thing for me, and I think for everybody in here, is we born and raised in this time and in Vietnam. Vietnam in the last 10 years is the fastest growing country in the world. And the world now expecting us in the next 10 years still the fastest growing country. And that is actually the golden opportunity for Vietnam maybe in the last 1,000 years. In the last 1,000 years, Vietnam may never find that spotlight of the world economically. Now we are here. Last year, Vietnam have the biggest number of countries that invest in one country. That shows how potential Vietnam right now, that we can attract a lot of, like foreign investors, that come to us and explore our market. But then back to Vietnam. So what makes Vietnam so potential? We having the youngest population in the world, right? We have the strategic location, right? That can access to a lot of like big market like China, like the rest of Asia, the U.S., right? But I myself, I'm born in a family that developed business in agriculture. I love agriculture. And in the last 20 years, when people mention about China, they think they call China is the manufacturer of the world. But I really expecting among many people can make Vietnam become the kitchen of the world.
Wow, the kitchen.
Right? Because we have tropical weather. We can manufacture rice, coffee, pepper, fruit, tropical fruit, all the fruit that, like developed country, they pay, like dearly, to have our longan, our mango, right? We definitely can conquer that market, can make that national brand. And I just tell you one thing, coconut, right? So now, because a lot of people, they really concerned, just for one example, so you can imagine how big is the agriculture product, the market size of a agriculture product. Now, a lot of people in the world, they're really concerned about their health, right? So they start shifting from using starch to cocoa powder to make cakes, to eat every day. And the market size of cocoa powder right now in the world $22 billion US dollar. And it's growing 9% every year. And as we know, coconut only growing in tropical country, right? Like Thailand, like Vietnam, and that's already make it very differentiated, you know, for just one product. Passion fruit also the same. Huge. And you know, as young people, we don't just look at technology, we don't just look at something fancy. Just look at something very basic, you know, like food. Like during the COVID time, you guys see, you know, when the economy in the world like going down, you know, people try saving a lot. We can stop shopping, we can stop buying stuff, but we cannot stop eating. And now we have to eat clean, right? So to me, that's one of the reasons that make Vietnam something that we can really think about when it comes to agriculture. And also, one other thing is, I have one of my startup, we do like IT solution. Vietnam now among the top country in the world where they go to IT solution. Just behind like India, right? And now is the time of, you know, 4.0, you know? So IT actually is the biggest tool for Vietnam to go fast. And now I'm at the FPT University, the University of Technology. So we are now definitely at the very right time with a great labor force when it comes to technology to really support all the industry to go global.
Wow, amazing. So I think my last question would be, you're very famous about how like to choose the right people in the right industry, something. Can you share a little bit about your very famous saying?
The right people? What?
Yes.
The right people in the right industry at the right time.
Is it right?
Okay. Yeah, I might say it. Okay, so I think the right people in the right industry at the right time. Yes, that's correct. But to me, the most important thing, and the first foremost, is the right people. You have to find the right people. That's the hardest thing. Because, for example, I invest in one of my startups about the cake industry. I see the potential of the cake industry, I think, more than 14 years. I already want to have to do something with that industry 14 years ago. I keep thinking about that business, of that market, of creating a company that can survive and growing in that industry for 14 years. But I cannot find the right people. The person that, you know, like co-founded with me on that, the cake factory, the startup about cake with me now, is actually the third person that I find, not the first. The first two, I fail. But I keep, you know, searching consistently to find the right person, to put in the right industry. And now I figure it out. If you have those first two, anytime is right.